Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of the Copper Scroll, Dead Sea treasure map, or sacred fiction. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In 1952, in Cave 3 near Qumran, archaeologists found a scroll unlike any other among the Dead Sea Scrolls. It was not made of leather or papyrus, it was hammered copper. And unlike the other scrolls, which contained religious texts, this one contained a list of 64 locations where vast amounts of gold and silver were buried. The treasure has never been found. The Copper Scroll is the most anomalous object in one of archaeology's most important discoveries. Every other Dead Sea Scroll is a religious or sectarian text. The Copper Scroll is an inventory. It is written in a colloquial Hebrew that differs markedly from the literary language of the other scrolls, as though composed by a different hand for a different purpose. The total quantity of treasure it describes, if the ancient units of measurement are read at face value, amounts to approximately 65 tons of gold and silver. This is either the most important treasure map ever written or an elaborate fiction made permanent by being hammered into metal. Which is it, and does it matter? This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the global puzzle of unexplained ancient construction, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. The sky was the original clock, calendar, and map. Before writing, before money, before cities, human beings looked up and organized their lives around what they saw. The position of the sun at solstice told them when to plant and when to harvest. The rising of specific stars marked the seasons. The phases of the moon governed ceremonial calendars in cultures from Ireland to India. Our ancestors were not casual observers of the night sky. They were meticulous, obsessive, and precise in a way that rivals modern astronomical science. This precision is encoded in stone at sites around the world. Newgrange in Ireland is aligned so precisely that sunlight enters its inner chamber only during the 5 days around the winter solstice, and it has done so every year for more than 5,000 years. The pyramids of Giza are oriented to true north with an accuracy of 0.05 degrees. Stonehenge tracks both the midsummer sunrise and the midwinter sunset, as well as the 18-6-year lunar cycle. These alignments are not accidental. They were engineered with mathematical precision by cultures we have long underestimated. What drove this obsession with celestial mechanics? Partly practical. Agriculture depends on knowing the seasons, but partly something more profound. Ancient cultures believed the sky was alive, that the movements of stars and planets determined the fates of kingdoms and harvests. In this worldview, encoding celestial cycles into permanent stone was not merely useful but sacred. The great monuments of the ancient world are, among other things, the most durable clocks ever built. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the Copper Scroll, Dead Sea treasure map, or sacred fiction is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The copper scroll was found in Cave 3 near Qumran in 1952, the same cave system that yielded other Dead Sea Scrolls. It consists of 3 sheets of thin copper, originally rolled into 2 scrolls. By 1952, it was so brittle and oxidized that it could not be unrolled without disintegrating. In 1955 and 1956, it was cut into 23 strips at the Manchester College of Technology using a fine saw, allowing the text to be read for the first time. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered the scroll is approximately 99 centimeters long and 30 centimeters wide. Its text describes 64 separate locations where gold, silver, temple vessels, and other valuables were buried. Quantities specified total approximately 65 tons of gold and silver in modern weight equivalents, a figure large enough to represent a major national or institutional treasury, though ancient measurement units introduce significant uncertainty into the calculation. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this. And that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. The copper scroll is written in a colloquial, non-literary Hebrew that is distinctly different from the Hebrew of the other Dead Sea Scrolls. Most scrolls from Qumran are written in the formal scriptural or sectarian Hebrew of a literate religious community. The copper scroll reads more like an administrative document, terse, practical, and technical. This linguistic distinction suggests it was composed independently from the sectarian community that preserved the other scrolls. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, John Marco Allegro, a member of the original International Scroll editing team, obtained permission and conducted a search of locations identified in the copper scroll in 1960. He published the first full translation, the first scholarly edition, and the first treasure hunt. He found nothing at any of the sites he searched. His eagerness to publicize the scroll and conduct independent searches estranged him from his colleagues on the official editing team, contributing to a bitter scholarly dispute. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of the scroll has been dated to approximately 25-100 AD based on paleographic analysis of the Hebrew script and comparison with other Qumran texts. This places its composition within the period of Roman occupation and before or during the First Jewish-Roman War of 66-73 AD, during which the Jerusalem temple was destroyed. The timing is significant. If the treasure is real, its hiding would have been motivated by the threat of Roman confiscation of temple wealth. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding. The location descriptions in the copper scroll use landmarks, valleys, cisterns, tombs, and buildings that no longer exist in identifiable form. The scroll's geography is consistent with the Jerusalem and Dead Sea region, but the specific references have resisted confident identification. This is either because the landmarks were deliberately obscured, because they have been destroyed by 2,000 years of history, or because the locations were never real to begin with. Taken together, These facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Copper Scroll, Dead Sea treasure map, or sacred fiction. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that John Allegro's interpretation, now supported by a number of scholars, holds that the Copper Scroll is a genuine treasure map recording the locations of the Jerusalem temple treasury, hidden in advance of the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. The copper medium itself supports this. No one uses expensive, labor-intensive copper to record a fiction. The main objection is that no treasure has been found at any of the 64 locations, despite multiple serious searches spanning 7 decades. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that Joseph Milik, the Polish priest scholar who was the official Copper Scroll editor for the international team, argued the scroll is a fictional inventory, a folk tale about legendary Jewish wealth, given spurious authority by being inscribed on copper. Milik suppressed the scroll's full publication for years, partly because he found the treasure hunt implications embarrassing. His fictional inventory theory remains the most widely held among Dead Sea Scrolls specialists, though it has not achieved consensus. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that John Lefkowitz, in a comprehensive 2000 study, proposed that the Copper Scroll records temple tax collections, actual money that had been gathered from Jewish communities across the Roman world, and deposited in hiding places for safekeeping during the Roman-Jewish conflict. Under this interpretation, the treasure is real and the quantities plausible, but the scroll describes distributed collections rather than a single temple hoard. This model explains the terse administrative style of the text. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree, that is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Copper Scroll, Dead Sea treasure map, or sacred fiction does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes the copper medium is itself the most compelling piece of evidence for the scroll's importance. Copper was expensive, difficult to work, and far more durable than leather or papyrus. No other ancient text of any kind, legal, religious, or administrative, is known to have been hammered into copper. Whatever the copper scroll contains, whoever wrote it considered the information important enough to be permanent. Fictions are not preserved in metal. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented. Vendell Jones, an American researcher, conducted excavations at Qumran from 1988 to 1992, following his own interpretation of the copper scroll's location codes. In 1988, he found a sealed juglet containing a substance subsequently identified as possible temple incense. In 1992, he found a large cache of reddish powder also consistent with temple incense ingredients. These finds, while not the main gold and silver hoard, are consistent with the scroll's references to sacred vessels and ritual materials. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed the copper scroll's location at Qumran, in the same cave complex as the other Dead Sea Scrolls, does not necessarily mean it was produced by the Essene community. The scroll's language, content, and medium all differentiate it sharply from the other scrolls. Some scholars argue it was deposited at Qumran for safekeeping by people from Jerusalem who were not members of the Qumran community, which would be consistent with its function as an emergency record of hidden valuables. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the copper scroll, Dead Sea treasure map, or sacred fiction. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The copper scroll is on permanent display at the Jordan Museum in Amman. No treasure has been found at any of the 64 listed locations. The scroll's most comprehensive modern translation, by Judah Lefkowitz, published in 2000, favors a real treasure interpretation while acknowledging that the location descriptions remain too ambiguous for confident identification. Hebrew University researchers continue to favor the fictional or symbolic interpretation. The debate has not moved significantly in decades, constrained by the immovable fact that the landmarks no longer exist in recognizable form. The scroll itself, a unique object made permanent in metal, awaits a resolution that may require finding what it describes. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made, new analyses are being published, new voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Copper Scroll, Dead Sea treasure map, or sacred fiction, from the historical record through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Copper Scroll ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.